So subwoofers, everybody's got an opinion on them. How big should they be? How many do you need? The answer, usually, more is better. You expected me to have some rhetorical comment on how less subwoofers is always better. But really, you just need to match your system with your system. For instance, if you have too many subwoofers, they're just going to run less. It'd be really helpful if they had an RPM gauge or just some sort of gauge to tell you how hard they were thumping, except for looking at the driver. If you're seeing your driver have good excursion, they're bumping. But man, would it be better if they could move half the distance? But then you need twice as many subwoofers. So, for a small show, like one that you'll be speccing, you'll probably only need 2 subwoofers. Because for the most part, and this is with like a stick PA, this goes with the dual or the PV215s or the 3-way cabinets. For the most part, a lot of audio equipment these days does a very good job at reproducing the low frequencies all the way down to 60 hertz. It's not really a problem anymore. Back in the day where, we had foam drivers and rare earth magnets, this was a huge problem because in order to get the excursion necessary, you needed to have a very soft cone. But these days with rubber surrounds and neodymium magnets and powerful Class D amplifiers, you don't really need subwoofers anymore. It's actually really surprising. And oftentimes what you'll see is subs just will sit there basically idle, except for the kick drum and a tiny bit of bass drum or bass guitar. It's kind of crazy how little actually goes into subwoofers. So the typical crossover point of a subwoofer will be anywhere between 80 and 120 hertz. Some would say that's a bit conservative, some say it's a bit liberal. It doesn't really matter, because at 120 hertz, the only thing that makes sound that you want to hear, there's 3 things that make sound. Actually 4. Keys, bass guitar, kick drum, toms, and people. People and pops. If you have a fuckload of subwoofers and your bass guitarist goes chunk, well, guess what? That ka-chunk is gonna get amplified to the nth degree, and the entire audience now have the same heart palpitation. It's really cool. Except for people who don't like that stuff. But anyway, the quantity of subwoofers needed these days is minimal because of those 3 big advents. If you need to remember them for a conversation, here's them again. It's the neodymium magnets, the rubber surround, and what was the last one? You know it. You're screaming at your screen right now. Class D amplifiers. So, I guess we should talk about Class D amplifiers, because why not? So a Class D amplifier is an amplifier that takes a DC source and then a switch that just goes really fast, and that switch is able to emulate every frequency that is in the audio range, and they'll typically do it up to 30 or 40,000 hertz just to be sure they'll get the clarity. Class D amps in the past have suffered from distortion at high powers, but these days with commercial amplifiers, the high power transistors really handle it well. Like, they're almost indistinguishable from your AB amps of yesterday. So what's an AB amp? An AB amp is a transistor that holds itself at the correct value. So if we think we have our DC supply here, and it's going up and down, that transistor follows that, but with a massive gain associated with it. So that transistor now, because it's operating in its linear range of conductivity, it now needs to move that voltage, and it's therefore going to generate a lot of heat. The Class D amps get around this because a transistor, or should I say a MOSFET, has a really low on resistance. And it also has that linear range, but we don't use that because we can switch it on and off fast enough. And yeah, that's the big benefit of Class D. You can fit 1,000 watts into something the size of your head. And an AB 1,000 watt amp, it needs to be like a 2 or a 4U rack unit. It draws 1,000 watts all the time. Not to say that that's a bad thing. Class AB amps are some of the cleanest sounding amplifiers you can have. But I would say a modern Class D is better. Especially one that's spec'd out right, it's better. Your phone is a Class D. I guarantee you that your car is a Class D. Pretty much all the amplifiers in the past 10 years have been Class D. That's why you've seen an explosion of these self-powered speakers. It's because you can have something that fits on the backside of a speaker that's actually good. Really good. And another benefit of having your Class D amp right on the back of the speaker, making it an active speaker, is that you don't have nearly as much interference. And you say, well, where does this interference come from on this? Oh, wait. The voltage generated across an amplifier is very low because we're dealing with a 4-ohm source. So, any interference picked up gets amplified by our speaker. Now, typically that's rather low. Like, we don't normally have any interference problems with high side speaker signals, but we can, and that's because most conventional amplifiers, half of it is grounded. You don't have a fully balanced signal exiting out of power amp. Excuse me. But with XLR, or the balanced version we call it, that is truly balanced. So it's a differential signal. So it means that when one side goes up, the other side goes down. And if you have interference that makes this one go like that, then, well, you can do what's called a sine cosine function, and that basically says, okay, this wiggle is now just gone, because we know that we're looking for the same movement on either side. So if it's not, if these aren't moving in unison, then we know that it's interference and we can just get rid of it. It's a very clever way of sending information, and many high bandwidth signals are sent like that. Just to name a few different protocols that employ this: Ethernet, HDMI, the RAM in your computer, so DDR3, 4, 5, the next generation of PCI Express, so Gen 6, that will be moving to, actually, I'm not sure on that. It definitely is a differential, but they're they were going to 4-bit configuration. That's a rather convoluted topic to talk about in the world of analog audio because we have all of our information within every wave. But anyway, differential signals make it so you can send data over incredibly long distances without having interference pick up anything. This is huge because it means we can have our mixing console, 500 feet away from our amplifiers and 500 feet away from our vocal mics. And you gotta remember, our vocal mics are just going just barely anything, and they're running right alongside the same cables as everything. And with that explanation of differential signals, thanks for watching, and have a subwoofer beside you. Why? Because you need to get below 30 hertz. That's it. That's the main reason. People say, "Oh, I don't hear 30 hertz." You feel it, bro. You feel 30 hertz. You feel 3.5 hertz. And yes, I do know what 3.5 hertz feels like. It's quite good. You should try it sometime. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.